What's up, other walkers? This is EDT Ginger. This is my first Magic the Gathering video. I've been playing for a while. Obviously, I've been doing pretty well. This deck is a more budget build for the people who do like having the option not to spend up to $500 plus for this game. This deck is relatively cheap. I think it costs around 200, which is pretty well costed for a competitive deck, and especially in this game. Yu-Gi-Oh! It's worse at the moment, but yeah, just to get started, typically for red-black control, you obviously have your 4 shocks, which the blood crypts are pretty nice to have, let alone the 4 tap lands, and oddly enough, you need more duels, so 4 Gill Gates, and then we have, other than that, you really want to activate your Mutilates, so we have 10 Swamps, and that's all the lands. Right now my Zendikars are being used by one of my friends. He wanted to take it to an event because he thinks it's important to have a blinked out deck, which I can understand. I really like the Zendikar lands. I really like the other ones from the Unhinged series, Unglued or Unhinged. You guys will probably tell me which one's right. Next we have the creatures, which starting with the highest cast would be double Siren Insanity main board. Side those out against any aggro deck, of course. But for 6 mana, making your opponent discard their hand is amazing against control, especially against Sphinx's Revelation decks like Blue, White, and X type decks. So double Sires, we have triple Olivia Valdarin, which, if I can get to see, you guys pretty much know what she does. Just for the people that don't, she's actually my EDH general for Tribal Vampires, not the actual red-black control EDH, because she's kind of a jerk. So at one point I changed to Gargazal because I was getting hated off the table. 4 Desecration Demons for 4 mana, 6/6 flyer that makes them sacrifice their guys to them if they choose and make him bigger. Always a plus. And you need to have some sort of consistent win condition with this deck. And the last for the creatures are 4 Nighthawks. Just a 3 mana flying Death Touch lifelink. Very, very important to any black based control deck. Now for the spells, we have double Bonfire of the Damned, which is, if you have to normal cast it, it's fine. It's not insanely great, but it's okay. But its Miracle Cast is pretty awesome, and it usually comes at good times, especially as a 2-of, and you're not really drawing too much with this deck. You're more based on discarding their hand as your card advantage, not drawing. Double Rakdos Return, which is, the deal X, discard X. It's another discard outlet other than Siren of Insanity to gain card advantage pretty cheaply. Then we have 3 main deck Dreadbores, destroy target creature or planeswalker for 2 mana. Would be insanely awesome if it was an instant, but oh well. I'll definitely take it if it can kill a planeswalker instantly. That's pretty sick. Only 2 Mutilates, mostly because just by choice. I don't like Mutilate as much anymore because, I mean, it's a great card, don't get me wrong. It's usually about 3 or 4 when you use it for this deck, but I'm running Barter and Blood as a 3-of, so Mutilate's not as huge. Yeah, Barter and Blood, sacrifice your creatures. Then 3 main deck Tribute to Hungers, 4 Devour Flesh, 4 Searing Spear, and that will wrap up the instants and sorceries in the deck. That's why you don't run that many Mutilates. You have so much other kill cards that they just kind of hog up spots in the main board. I was also considering 2 more Mutilates in the sideboard against Red-Green Blitz or Naya Blitz or whatever type of aggro deck you're facing, but it's not really needed. Then for just 1 little Staffing In and 2 Honorable Connections as draw power for the deck. Of course, you get to the point where you top deck, you're discarding both players' hands. Underworld Connection's great. I was running Sign and Blood over it, and I was a 4-of originally. This card, I'll bring it back up. Underworld Connections is pretty sweet. Just tap land, lose life, draw a card. It's not a big deal. It's pretty good to siphon. And then Staffing In, of course, takes care of planeswalkers. Typically sided out, but it deals 1 damage target, usually to planeswalkers. You want to keep them at bay. You draw 2 cards at a turn. It's pretty sweet. That is it for the main board. Now for the sideboard, we have just 2 slaughter games. I didn't want to run more than that because I wanted to dedicate more spots on the board to other problems that were needed. But if you want to run 4, Be My Guest, it's a good card. It's kind of expensive in certain ways, being 4 mana. It doesn't really take out any aggro quick decks or any tempo, because they can typically get rid of that problem. But it's a good card. Gets rid of Sphinx's Revelation, which is why we use it. Not really many other things do we worry about. 3 Mizium Mortars against more mid-range type builds where they're running Restoration Angels, which Searing Spear doesn't deal with. And it's just 2 mana, field 4 damage, pretty sweet. And then on the other side, we're playing 3 Pillar Flames because we don't like having killing creatures like Strangleroot, having them come back, or Voice of Resurgence is a big one. Any red deck should run Pillar Flames. There's no reason not to. It's 1 mana 2, and it exiles, it doesn't kill, which is a huge point right now in Standard. Double Rakdos Return, not for the deal 1 damage crap. That's just stupid ability. I don't know why you'd ever want to Fireball against an aggro deck. You're going to lose if you ever get that work. The artifact isn't big, but it's the Exile Graveyard. I like it more as an instant speed versus others. You know, there is the one artifact that is 0 mana. The Crypt, whatever. Sorry guys, it's been kind of a late night. But yeah, whatever, the Crypt or Tomb, whatever, that 0 cast thing, you guys know what I'm talking about. I don't like it as much because it is on the field. I don't like them seeing that I can exile the graveyard, mostly against Reanimator and some Snapcaster-esque builds. Like, there's a Delver. Typically, I don't really side it in against Delver, but if Snapcaster is becoming a problem, then I will. 3 Pithing Needles, mostly to fight off Aetherling, because Aetherling is just a problem in general. It's really freaking good, so if you turn it into a 6 mana 4/5, it's not so great, and it does take care of Planeswalkers, but also does 2 Chandras. Chandra doubling spells is really what we use her for. She was main board, now she's sideboard because just personal preference. I needed more space for other things. She's not terrible. The new Chandra is pretty cool. I don't like her as much either. I don't really like Chandra in general. I'd rather play Liliana the Veil, but she's expensive. And the other Liliana was only used when I ran Gristlebrand and stuff like that to get consistent land drops past 4th turn. I mean, she's fine. Copying spells. She pings Planeswalkers back again, like another Staff and Nin, a cheaper one, to actually affect when the Planeswalkers first come out, which is pretty good. Also, she's a nice little consistent win. I've won games with her. I shouldn't, according to a lot of people. Like, how are you going to ever win games with this card? It's awful, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, she is really bad, I admit that. But, still use her. You can also double Slaughter Gang. Like, there's pretty tricky things you can do with her. That's kind of funny. Calling 2 cards of Slaughter Gangs would be pretty cool. Actually, I've never done that, so I don't know the ruling behind that. I don't know if it would still count as the same. I wouldn't think it'd be the same. You'd have to do the same card for double cases of Slaughter Games. I've never had that happen. Someone else can in that ruling in the comment section below. Thanks guys. If you comment, rate, subscribe to my videos, be pretty freaking awesome. You know, I'm just starting. I'm pretty good. Later I'll start having some dual videos and other deck techs of obscene proportions. I'll start bringing in like Jund midrange and American Control and Esper, Bant Flash, whatever you guys want to see. I do have a very consistent player base around here that has these decks and would be more than happy to share their builds and their little tech cards. This is just the anti-meta type red-black deck that I built to kind of crush for very specific type of builds, mostly control. Aggro builds lose this deck just because of the mass amount of kill spells. I mean, there's no reason not to play a crap ton of kill spells in this format. There's just a lot of really resilient creatures. Personally, I think if I was going to edit the board, the Searing Spears aren't as great. I mean, I love that their instant speed is why they're in the main board versus side, Museum Orders tends to take care of more options, obviously. It's one more damage, but it makes a big deal in this meta. It also takes care of the Mirror of Sire of Insanity, which, just by the way, people, if you're running blue, make sure you have a Cyclonic Rift if they're playing Sire of Insanity. That way, when the trigger activates, so the trigger's on the stack, go ahead and unsummon or Cyclonic Rift their Sire to hand in response to the trigger, and it will be discarded. It'll just be tricked out. That's the deck. Please tell me how you guys like it, and I'll see you guys later.